Hey, so our old friend Abubaker's Siddiq Debunks has started making videos again, after not making any for almost 2 years. It's a miracle. Now, I haven't watched all the way through this video, so I have no idea if it's actually worth responding to or not, but for one thing, it's Abubaker, so it's gotta be worth responding to. And for another thing, it's the first one he made after coming back, and I feel kinda like I have to. It's like a moral obligation, especially given that its title is Reasons Why Atheists Don't Believe in God. How can I possibly go wrong with a title like that? Come on.
Hello everyone.
Oh, hello, Abubaker.
I hope you're all okay. How are you all doing?
Oh, we're all doing great. Especially now that you're here. How are you doing? You glad to be back? Feeling good?
I'm doing great, thank you.
That's wonderful, and you're welcome. Say, pal, where you been? We've missed you here on YouTube while you were gone. I had to respond to your old videos, there was nothing new. It's really sad. It hurts me in my heart parts.
I know I've not made videos in a long time, but this is going to be the start of a new journey which I'm going to go on, where I'm going to be making videos every week, possibly on a Sunday.
Hey, that's great. It didn't really work out that way, but I can't blame you, man. I've been there myself. You want to commit to something, but it just falls through. You don't have the motivation, whatever. But even if it's not as regular as we both would have liked, at least you're still making videos, and that's something.
Well, let's get straight into it.
Aw, do we have to? Can't we just talk a little more first? We always end up in an argument when you get into the whole religion thing. Hey, so did you catch the, cricket game last night? I assume you like cricket.
Today's video is titled Reasons Why Atheists Won't Believe in God.
Actually, no. You titled it Reasons Why Atheists Don't Believe in God. Which, I know it looks similar. I know it only differs by one letter, but it's kind of an important letter there. Don't versus won't. Meaning-wise, that one little letter makes a lot of difference.
So, I'm going to talk about what it is inside of us that compels atheists not to want to believe in God.
Inside of us? Including you? Abubaker, are you struggling with your belief? Do you have a little voice in the back of your mind telling you, hey, Abu, none of this makes sense, right? Do you want to talk about it, buddy? Well, I guess we're talking about it right now, eh?
If you think about life, it's divided into two categories of people. Essentially, there's those people who believe in God and those people who don't believe in God.
Really? I get that if you define what counts as capital G God clearly enough, then you can get to the point where you can classify every human as either believing or not believing in it, if that's really what you want to do. But that's not what you said here. Let's hear that again.
If you think about life, it's divided into two categories of people. Essentially, there's those people who believe in God and those people who don't believe in God.
That is not. People can be divided into these two categories. That is, life is divided into these two categories of people. Like as if to imply that it's more than just an arbitrary classification that you've chosen to make out of billions you could have made, which in that case is just silly, of course. Since the truth is that life is actually divided into people who like pineapple on pizza and people who should be gassed to death.
And it can be quite a touchy subject. Belief and not belief is integral to human beings.
That's, Sure, belief and disbelief are basic functions of the human mind, and the brain isn't functioning normally if it doesn't believe anything at all. But that alone is not enough to make theism or atheism touchy subjects. So you must mean something more than just that belief as a state of mind is integral to humans. So what exactly do you mean?
And it's integral to how we've lived for the last 10,000 years. Every society in history has believed in God in one way or another, through paganism or monotheism or any other kind of belief.
Right, that's what I figured. So it's not that you think that the state of believing is a key part of what it is to be human, which would be true. It's that you think specific beliefs are integral to people. Or more specifically, you think that God belief, in particular, and not just belief in general, is necessary to make a human being whole, which is obvious nonsense, since humans gain and lose belief in gods all the time and still remain just as human by any coherent standard. Let's say, I wonder if this applies to other beliefs. Like, could I say, I don't know, the belief that my coffee maker is working properly is integral to me as a human being. And then if I cease to believe that my coffee maker works, I suddenly drop from 100% human to like 98%? Or does this standard only apply to beliefs that you tell us it applies to? Oh, and by the way, dude, societies don't believe things. Individuals do. I know it's nitpicky, but everyone knows I like nitpicking. I doubt anyone cares. As a matter of fact, repeat what you just said so I can nitpick it some more. I'm pretty sure nitpicking sells.
You know, the essential need to believe in God is something that the soul has to answer and has to look into at least once in their life.
Is it? Really? Because, I mean, look, I never even thought about it remotely until I was a teenager, right? The entire concept was something distant and alien, and it wasn't like I decided not to think about it. I just never had any urge to think about it. If I died at age 14, I would have gone completely against your assertion here. And hell, even now, the only reason I think about it isn't because I actually take it seriously in the slightest, because how could I possibly? No, it's just because I started to notice that you dicks online were going on and on about it, and I thought, wow, that is genuinely the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Oh, and your arguments suck ass. I still haven't found anything that counts as a worthy competitor for first place in the stupidest things I've ever heard competition, by the way. I've never felt any more need to solemnly brood over this question any more than over whether Elvis is still alive in Argentina and will sing at my birthday party. And I'm sure you'll have some excuse. You might say, but someday you will. Well, you never know, I guess, but the point is, if I die tomorrow, it will not have happened. Look, Abu, I know all of this is really hard for you to believe. You can't quite wrap your head around it, and that's because your mind has been trapped inside a tiny little box for your entire life, and you really have a lot of problems imagining that any mind exists that doesn't fit inside of it. You've made that very clear in the past videos, and since you can't read my mind, you can't know if I'm speaking the truth about my own experience with this. And neither can anyone who's watching. But I don't really care because I'm not trying to prove anything to anyone here. All I'm trying to do is explain to you why, based on what's hidden inside my own head, I know perfectly well that you're talking nonsense. When it comes to the genuine thoughts of human beings, the only person I can speak with any confidence about is me. And based on my knowledge of what I've thought in the past, I know that what you're saying should be true about everyone is false about at least one person. And since I'm under no illusion that I'm some ultra-unique specimen of humanity, I can only assume that there are other people who've had similar experiences.
You know, I'm just going to go through various reasons why atheists won't believe in God.
Okay, great, but I'm willing to bet that you're not even going to mention the most important reason, which is because every religious argument is an incoherent mess and probably always will be because believers make lazy arguments. I mean, dude, I've done, 3 videos responding to you now? I'm familiar with your arguments, and they're weak at best if your goal is actually to convert anyone. And yet, despite having this clearly pointed out to you so many times by me and plenty of other people, I've never seen you take even a shred of responsibility for your errors and your poorly constructed arguments. Nor do I see you or any of your fellow believers criticizing other believers for using shoddy arguments. But if you really wanted atheists to start believing in God, that's what you would have to do. To make sure, to the best of your ability, that at least some minimal percentage of the information and arguments that are reaching them are of an acceptable quality. Like 1%. I'm not asking for much. I'm not expecting a miracle here. 0.5%? A quarter?
Number one reason is atheists rely on a satanic presence in their life to get by.
Yeah, you see what I mean? You're not coming at this from the perspective of, hey, for some reason these people aren't convinced by what we claim as fact. We're just really not managing to get through to many of them at all, so how can we improve our strategy to convince them? Right? I mean, that would be the smart approach here, especially considering that this video is clearly not geared towards atheists. I mean, atheists know you're full of shit about everything you're about to say. Well, I mean, I haven't heard what you're about to say, but it's a pretty safe assumption that you are. No, it's Satan. It's not about your strategy, it's not about your arguments, it's not about your presentation. No, it's the devil. It's gotta be the devil, you know? You don't have failings, you don't have problems. It's all fucking Satan. You can't have anything at all to do with the brain-meltingly obvious fact that you failed to live up to even the most basic, low intellectual standard. Nah, Abubaker, your arguments kick ass. Nah, the only possibility is those poor fools must just be addicted to their daily dose of Satan juice.
So an atheist doesn't want to leave his connection with that satanic lifestyle.
Come on, that's, well, okay, I guess you got me on that one. But I think you're being a little bit unfair here, treating this satanic lifestyle like it's a bad thing. I mean, our main evil ritual is D&D, you know? And the only things we sacrifice are Mountain Dew and Cheetos. Is that really so bad?
I know atheists say, I don't believe in nothing. We don't believe in devils or anything connected with spirituality. We just don't believe in anything of the sorts like that. But actually, atheists do have this inkling to go towards satanic vices.
Okay, so atheists say they don't believe in devils and spiritual stuff, which certainly isn't true for all atheists, but okay, we can generalize if you like. But the important question here is, do you think atheists actually don't believe that stuff? Or do you think they really do believe that stuff, but they just say they don't? Because those are two highly distinct positions on the matter, and they have major implications for what you actually think about atheists. Since then, in the one case, you would have atheists being drawn to satanic vices innocently, sincerely unaware of the danger, and in the other, they would believe the devil is real and willingly choose to follow him.
And I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm not saying all atheists are like that.
Oh good, you threw in that not all after all. Well, that makes it all better.
But, the battle between good and bad is something that exists, and it's connected with the question of belief in God or not.
Be careful or you might just get me agreeing with you. I mean, after all, I regularly deal with Muslims who defend slavery, send death threats, support terrorism and capital punishment for apostates, or even just simple things like drool with anticipation at the idea of every atheist being roasted alive forever in God's fire pit. If you decide to start arguing that the battle between good and bad has a connection to belief or disbelief in God, you might sway me to your side, but I think not in the way you'd like.
I can give you, for example, a lot of gay people tend to be atheists.
Oh yeah, there's another one for the list. Muslims who think being gay is inherently bad and deserves infinite punishment. Can't leave those guys out.
God says in the Quran, if you believe in God, it will be more easier for your soul to do good deeds. If you don't believe in God, it's harder for you to do good deeds.
If you believe in God, it'll be easier for you to do good deeds. Good deeds like falling in love with someone whose genitals interlock with yours, which does no good for anyone. Is this really the standard of good you operate on, man? You think God prefers it when one person's junk can fit into the other's, and therefore that's good? See, all this strikes me as weird. Thing is, right, I was raised to believe that doing good actually means doing good for someone. Help an old lady across the street, give to charity, hell, even just give a kid a lollipop. Brighten someone's day, give someone hope for humanity. But I guess that's all wrong, at least according to you. When you think of a good thing to do, the very first thing that pops into your head is carefully avoiding any mutually enjoyable sexual time with someone, even in the privacy of your own home where it bothers nobody else, unless that person matches certain physical parameters. Now, obviously it's a matter of opinion whether goodness should be defined by how things actually impact human beings, or by how well they live up to the arbitrary rules of an invisible monster from Dimension X. But when you see it as the former, it's really, really hard to see the latter as anything other than a waste of energy. And a little cold-blooded, too.
And that's just the way it is. We're all living in different parallel worlds. A person who's gonna be a believer in God is living in a different world to a person who doesn't believe in God.
Oh man, Abubaker, for once you are absolutely right. You guys are like space aliens to me. Seriously. When you talk about your religion, I can hardly even comprehend how you and I, who are two individuals from the same planet, can think in such radically different ways. Clearly we can, but it's just mind-blowing that we can. And I'm pretty sure the reason it blows my mind so much is because it's crazy, you and I are two roughly equivalent brains, and yet here's me trying to live in a world of cold, hard reality, and then here's you trying to live in the fantastical world of fluffy cloud pillows and snuggies made of wishes and toasty little fiery ovens for anyone who points out that every single thing in your world is intangible and imaginary.
For me as a believer, everything good that I do feels like it's rewarded, from God, from life, through friendship, through interaction with people. There's a warmth that comes towards me.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about, man. You believe that the good things you do are rewarded through some mystical, magical means because you want to believe it. And for some reason, you find it important that you get some direct payment for doing good things. Like, what's the point of doing a good thing if I don't get money in my checking account, It's ridiculous. Abubaker, in, what do you call it? Oh yeah, real life, not every single good thing you do comes back around to you directly, and nor does it need to. Nor should you expect that to. To expect that is just greedy, and it's based on nothing but wishful thinking. It's not gonna happen. And personally, I figure if the reason you do good things is just because you feel like you're gonna get rewarded, well then you're not really doing anything because you consider it good, but just because you consider it good for you. It's selfishness, just like any other act intended solely to benefit you. You know, do a good thing if you figure it'll tip the balance sheet in your favor. It doesn't make you a good person. It makes you an investor. Of course, I'd much rather live in a world where people do good things out of self-interest than where nobody does anything good at all. And that's kind of the point I'm getting to, actually, which is, although not every good thing you can do for other people comes back to benefit you directly, there is a nice little side benefit to doing good things, which benefits everyone, including you. When people live in a society where they feel like other people have got their back and are going to help out when it counts, or even just where people are polite enough to hold doors or stop their cars at crosswalks, then a lot of other people feel more like doing the same, and that creates an environment of people helping people, at least more often, which is good for everyone. You can think of it of a smaller scale, like a workplace, right? If nobody ever helps anyone, nobody's going to be inclined to help anyone, or at least not as often. But if there's a culture of people helping people, that's how it's going to work. People are going to help people. If you've ever had a job, you know how it works. Now, of course, if the only reason that you stop at a crosswalk or help your coworker is because you expect the cosmic overlord to make someone else do the same when you want to cross or you want help at work, you're going to be pretty put out when someone blows right past you when you're halfway across that intersection. So you're better off just not expecting anything. So I guess what I'm really trying to say, Abubaker, is stop being a selfish bitch. Just stop at the fucking crosswalk already.
Just the fact that I believe in God makes everything, much more in a happy state.
Yeah. Cloud pillows, wish snuggies, no gays allowed, I got it. But hey, I just noticed, aren't we getting a little bit off track here? I mean, this video is supposed to be about why atheists won't believe in God, right? And yet, here's you talking about how believing in God tickles you just right in the feels, which seems unrelated to the subject at hand, especially because you would think that this would push atheists toward belief rather than away from it.
For example, have you heard of that argument where people talk about the law of the universe, where if you do something good, the universe will respond back to you?
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, that's an idea, not an argument, but yeah, I've heard of karma. And as I just informed you, because weirdly enough, it seems that you weren't aware, karma's bullshit. You know, as sad as it may be, there are people out there who try to put nothing but good things out into the world, and in return they get nothing but misery and tragedy. And on the other hand, there are people who do nothing but prey on others and make life miserable for everyone, and get everything they ever wanted for it. It could be they're the exception more than the rule, but they still exist, which means human fortunes aren't built on karmic laws. At least not absolutely. Which Muhammad knew just as well as I do, as is evident from his assertions that even if those who do evil might seem to have good things come to them, they've still got terrible things coming in the afterlife. And while bad things might happen to good people have good things coming in the afterlife. Now, of course, his conception of a good person was someone who believed in the religion he came up with and followed the stupid-ass rules and said the right prayers, but that's beside the point.
If you put something out there which is positive and which is good, it'll come back to you in different forms in life. For example, you might get a good job or you might have a good career.
Yeah, but like I said,
it's similar to that.
Oh, so you're not actually talking about karma then, just something like it. Oh, okay, never mind then. If you're not talking about that, then what are you talking about?
An atheist doesn't want to break or doesn't want to hinder that opportunity. And he's reliant on satanic forces to have got him so far in life. So for him to say all of a sudden, I'm going to break away from this lifestyle, he needs those satanic vibes. And that's one of the reasons why they don't want to believe in God. They don't want to break away from something which has given them so much success.
Oh, now I get it. Okay, so what you're saying is the reason atheists won't believe in God isn't that karma exists, but that a system like karma exists. Except that instead of good things being caused by doing good things are caused by Satan vibes. Well, I gotta admit, you're onto something there. Satan has the best vibes. If you're in the market for a vibe, come on down to Satan's Vibe and RV Emporium. He'll hook you up with a good one. Trust me, it'll cause good things. Best things. If Abubaker thinks believing in God puts him in a happy state, just wait till he tries a satanic vibe. But stop at the crosswalks anyway, you dick.
Number 2 reasons why atheists won't believe in God is this sense of self-aggrandizing, self-worshipping of one's own state, putting oneself up to be in a position where it can rival God in terms of intellect, in terms of strength.
Abu, do you actually know what an atheist is? I'm serious. Do you know what an atheist is? It's not about rivaling God in terms of anything, because we don't believe there's a God in the first place. There's nothing there to rival. There's nothing there to compete against. Yeah, if there were a God like you describe it, then obviously it'd be completely absurd to think that we can rival it in any way, except maybe in quality of character. However, we can easily rival you in terms of intellect, and that's really all we expect, trust me. See, regardless of whether there's a God or not, you and I both only have one intellect that we can rely on in any way, and that's our own. We're stuck inside our own heads, Abubaker, whether you like it or not, and every determination we ever make about reality, including whether there's a God, is gonna be made by our own minds. So you've come to the conclusion that there is a God, and now you're insisting that I have to accept the conclusion of your flawed human mind, because anything else amounts to a claim that my mind can rival a perfect godly one. If I don't accept what your flawed mind thinks, then I think my mind is perfect. That is your claim. But I listened to you explain how you came to your conclusion, which I've done extensively in the previous 3 videos that I made in response to you, and my mind, the only mind I can rely on, detects that your reasoning is severely flawed. And I certainly recognize that my mind is flawed too. Everyone's mind is flawed. And that humility, that ability to recognize that humans are not perfect, and that nobody, no matter how convinced they seem of what they're saying, can be relied upon to speak absolute truth at all times, is why I cannot believe what you say without demanding that you back it up with solid reasoning. At the very least, you're going to have to back it up with reasoning that appears solid to my flawed mind. Because I do not worship the human mind or myself, because I recognize that everyone has flaws and so I cannot honestly aggrandize the human intellect, because I don't see any reason to believe that you or anyone else is omniscient and perfectly intelligent, then to be intellectually honest, I have to recognize that your mind is just as imperfect as mine or anyone's. Which means that no matter how much you might want your claims and conclusions to be off the table for questions, they are not unquestionable. Doesn't matter if you believe the contrary. So that being the case, whose reasoning am I supposed to rely on if I'm to avoid your accusations that you're slinging at me, Abu? Am I supposed to reject the conclusion of my mind, my reasoning, that your reasoning is flawed? Is it arrogant of me to refuse to treat you as an infallible god and to rely on my reasoning instead of yours? Is the only way to avoid self-aggrandizement and self-worship to treat you as if your reasoning is perfect and infallible and you know everything, and ignore my own mind's opinion that you aren't and you don't? Is that how it works? If I can't reject my own reasoning and assume that your conclusions are all true, then I'm attempting to rival God by attempting to rival you. I've never heard such arrogance in my life.
And out of that is born a sense of arrogance.
You are not in a good position to talk about arrogance right now, Abu.
Of not wanting to believe. Because if you think you've got everything in life, if you think you're so powerful to a degree, you're not wanting to there to be another power over you.
Oh, buddy, trust me. If there's an ultra-powerful creature holding me over a torture pit, just giddy at the thought of dropping me in, I want to believe it. That is priority 1. Because if I don't believe it, I'm not going to know that I have to take steps to help myself out of that situation. It's not like that'd make me like this situation, but I'd be damn glad that at least I knew the miserable truth so I could deal with it. And again, we come back to the difference between the title of your video and the subject that you stated in your video. Saying atheists won't believe is very, very different from saying that we don't believe. One implies a refusal to accept what we know we should accept, and the other implies just not believing it. You need to get clear on this, man. I don't believe you. Let me say that again. It is not that I won't believe you, it is that I don't believe you. You have failed to make a good case. As a matter of fact, the case you've made in the other videos I've responded to has been so remarkably awful, such an unbelievable failure, that instead of convincing me that you're right, somehow you convinced me just a little bit more that you're wrong. And I was pretty convinced to start with. If you were right, you'd be right. If you had a good case, that's it, you have a good case. I want to be right too. I like being right about things. So if you made a good case to show me you're right, I would have to believe you. I would want to believe you. Now, I know you cannot possibly accept that what I'm telling you right now is actually true. I know that the very concept of intellectual honesty and a willingness to change your mind is really hard for an incredibly closed-minded believer like you to understand. And I know that probably, no matter how many times I say it, you'll never believe that it's even possible, because you just cannot fathom the idea that anyone might be willing to change their mind. I know you've heard people tell you this before, and I know that me telling it to you yet again won't change your mind on the matter because, well, it's your mind. But hey, it's okay. All I do all day is talk to brick walls. I'm used to it.
You know, because it's going to humble you, and an atheist's mindset is one where he's trying to raise himself all the time.
Dude, you just got done saying that not accepting your reasoning means we think we're as smart as a god. You have not positioned yourself well for this, okay? Seriously, oh Lord of the Cosmos, step down from your heavenly pedestal and join us mere mortals who try to puzzle our way to truth with our limited human intellects. Or, stop lecturing us about humility.
What atheists don't understand is that you can have a nice form of a kind of arrogance if you actually do believe in God.
Oh, I see. Now I get it. Your belief that you and you alone possess perfect knowledge of the absolute truth, and that challenging you is inseparable in concept from challenging God, is arrogance. But it's the nice kind of arrogance. And so, when you accuse us of arrogance for not accepting your claims, it's not as if you're being staggeringly hypocritical or anything like that. No, it's just that you, with your nice arrogance, are accusing us of having not nice arrogance. It all makes sense now.
There's this arrogance where you're part of a movement, where you've got this spear, this deity head above in God, which you're following. And that gives you some kind of like complex, some kind of really strong mental complex. So I'm arrogant, but I'm a good form of arrogance. What you don't want to be doing is falling into that bad form of arrogance, which atheism provides.
And here I was questioning if maybe I was reading a little bit too much into what you were saying, but nope. So let me just get this straight here. If you're part of a movement, and you've got some authority figure that you're following, and you're an arrogant prick about it to such a degree that it could be characterized as a mental complex, then that's good. But otherwise it's bad. Okay, so basically, if I call myself part of some atheist movement, and I say that I follow Richard Dawkins, cliche example, whatever, and I act like the most arrogant motherfucker on the planet, and whenever you argue with me, I go, "Do you know who I am, boy? I am atheist. I am as intelligent and strong as a god. And you would think to challenge me? Think ye as smart as a god, ye arrogant whelp?" Then you'll congratulate me on finally having become the right kind of arrogant. Oh, alright, we can arrange that.
Because I believe in God. But it also humbles me to know that there's something out there which is above me and can shape my life. So believers have a good mixture of arrogance and humbleness.
Silence, mortal! Your mere human mind cannot possibly hope to compete with the wisdom of the great Dawkins, ruler of atheism and shaper of infidel lives. Now hear my decree and hold thy tongue, lest you self-aggrandizingly hold thyself as equal to the Lord Dawkins. Thy God does not exist, and thou shalt subscribe to my YouTube channel, and like and share this video. Furthermore, puny fool, thou shalt support me on Patreon, and if thou supporteth me at $5 or more, thou shalt appear in this list of godlike intellects who have done so before thee. Now begone until I return to finish my response.